Hi everyone. So this is gonna actually be one of my first videos into movies because another big interest and sort of side hobby of mine is films. I also have a pretty good extensive film collection. I a couple of months ago, like last year, I was working on like a top 100 like list of like the best films that I personally believe are like the best films of all time. It's a little bit of like an amateurish one, nothing too serious, but I'll link it in the description if you guys want to check it out. But today I'm going to be talking about Mickey 17 because I just watched it. I had planned on seeing it over the weekend, but didn't get around to it, and I finally got to see it tonight. And I will say that, when I first initially saw the trailer, I thought it was interesting. I was like, okay, sounds decent. Had no idea who the director was going to be, so I was like, you know what, I'll just watch it when it comes out on a streaming service. But when I found out it was Bong Joon-ho, to be honest with you, I was like just basically convinced off of that because I've seen all of his films. Oh, just poked my eye. I've seen all his films and I like basically all of them. I can't even really give any of the films any severe negative criticism. Like the most that I could say is the host. Kind of the CGI looks pretty awful at times, but I still think that it was pretty ambitious for what it was going for at the time. Like shit, there weren't many films going for that, especially with the budget that he had. So it was impressive for what he went for, and I think it was a decent story. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10 like people say that they think it is. I think it's a really great, solid movie. I do have to rewatch it though. I mean, certain films only get better with a rewatch. Over the summer, I saw Parasite again because it was like the fifth year anniversary or something like that, and it was just again phenomenal. Easily one of the best films I've ever seen in my life. I remember the first time I saw that film, it was kind of like I was watching it with my ex, and we were actually seeing it at home because when it initially got released, it was only available like in certain theaters and it wasn't in the main theaters, at least from what I could tell. So I was like, okay, I'll just watch it at home, got it illegally off of some website. And we were watching it, and I had this feeling while I was watching Parasite that, like, you know, it was like a classic old school movie in a weird way. I still don't even know how to describe it, but it just had the beats and the melody of an older film from that time frame. Something about the soundtrack, something about the acting and just the pacing and the way that the film went. It just reminded me of something that I had not seen in a really long time, but it felt familiar. And so, completely blown away by that movie. And he hasn't really done anything since then. So, like, when I saw that he was making it, I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer. Gotta see it. Robert Pattinson, fucking awesome actor. Like, completely awesome. If anything, I feel like, for me personally, he established himself completely when he was Batman. Like, that for me was like, okay, you're great. Like, you were really great. And he already had pretty solid, good roles. Like, I can't remember that other movie, Good Friend or whatever, the one that people really liked. Solid movie for me, not crazy about it. But either way, I say all this to say that, there were a little bit of expectations for me going into this film, and I think I really still really enjoyed it. I will just get it out of the way. The score that I gave it on IMDb, because I have an IMDb page as well, that's kind of where I have my IMDb top 100 list. I gave it a 9. I think that it probably would be closer to an 8 or an 8.5. So maybe like I would give it like an 8.25, somewhere around there. But I think that it's a film that upon further rewatch, it's only going to get better for me. And I could just feel that. Like I could really feel that. I think that there's a lot of things that were sort of taking me out of the film towards like the midsection and definitely the very lengthy conclusion portion that was like sort of throwing me off. But I really liked how the film ended. And it's interesting because I just finished watching like Karsten Runquist, I don't know how to say his name, but his sort of opinion on the ending, and I completely disagreed. Like I think that the film ends off in a from this sort of way where there is something about the red button, but either way, I'll get to that. So I'm not going to give a description. If you watch this video, I'm basically just going to recommend that you go see it. I'm just going to give my initial feelings on it. So the film clearly has a very abrasive political overtone, to be honest. Not an undertone, it's an overtone. It is all over this film. And Mark Ruffalo plays this sort of political figure masterfully. I thought he did fantastic. Definitely a sort of Trump impersonation, but also carrying on certain leaders. And to be honest, what Trump is just another idealized political figure. He's nothing new. He's just the current it thing, but he's really just portraying what other political figures have done and been in the public eye. He's just another figure in that way. He's nothing special. And so that's why I could see that Mark Ruffalo was pulling from him, pulling certain ideas, but definitely also looking into other characters in which he could study and sort of portray in the film. Robert Pattinson was great, like absolutely fantastic. I loved his portrayal of Mickey 17 and 18, just phenomenal work. Like his his technique for both characters was so fascinating. Seeing him argue against himself and the way that the camera sort of like captured them both made the conversation seem so seamless. Like if there was no editing at all and you were just seeing them both talk in a room, even though there's constant cuts. And I think when a director can do that, like I'm telling you, you could watch a lot. You can watch TV shows, any types of films, and you will notice cuts. You will notice that like a conversation does not feel fluid because the director just didn't put together a fluid enough conversation. And especially a film where you have the same actor communicating with himself, to get two performances in which they both feel like it's literally a consecutive conversation. I have to give not only the director credit, but I have to give Robert Pattinson credit. Like he is masterfully doing this. Like I am genuinely impressed in his range. It's really extremely impressive. I also liked his girlfriend. I don't remember her name actually. You know what? I'm gonna just quickly look it up, just for I'm not sort of talking out of my ass. It's really odd when I was scrolling through the casting. It's Naomi Ackie who plays Nasha, and she's also fantastic in man, my brain is fried today. It's 11 o'clock, so I'm trying to remember everything. She was also in Blink Twice, and she was phenomenal in that. I found her to be pretty fantastic in this film as well. I'm actually surprised that she's so far down here. Um, I was kind of conflicted in one part where, like, I think consistently she's great. Like, she really brings in the range herself as well. She's kind of asked to portray a lot of different aspects of her own character. The portion where she's calling out Mark Ruffalo is like it feels satisfying for sure, but it's a little like I don't know if I'd say cringe, but it's like very much on the nose of what it's like sort of talking about. I think I think at this point, Bong is just kind of like, bro, like I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna be like straight up. I don't like the fucking rich. I don't give a fuck about them at all. I don't like what they're doing I don't care what they're doing to the planet. I think that they're all fucking stupid and that they have their agendas and that they don't give a shit about anybody. He's just straight up in this film, and he basically communicates that through a monologue that Naomi Ackie gives as Nasha. And I thought it was great. Like I said, it's like a little bit so on the nose that I'm kind of like, all right, like I think I could forgive it just because like it's Bong, but I don't know if I would with any other director. And that's the thing, like even with this film, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I would have seen it if it was anybody else. Like even with Robert Pattinson, I don't know if I would have really given the film a shot, but I think I still would have liked it. But I mean, I also have to give credit that like if anybody else directed this film, it wouldn't be as great as it is. It's a really great film that has a lot of symbolism throughout the film about like what it means to have a sort of conversation with yourself, understand different parts of yourself, be okay with different parts of yourself. One part that really stood out to me was like when Robert Pattinson's talking to himself when they're out in the snow, and it's just another instance in which yeah, they're about to go out onto the snow to approach the creepers, and he tells him, how many times do I have to tell you like that you don't like something or something of that matter? It basically insinuates that there's always been this sort of connection between the two characters, and it's really coming through the personality. The personality is a part of who Mickey actually is. It's just broken off into all these different characters, and clearly the film is talking about like how we sometimes feel split and how sometimes we don't come into terms with certain aspects of ourselves and that we repress certain aspects. So it really explores that, and I think because of that, it genuinely is a film that like is highly rewatchable in that way, because you can look at these certain aspects and you can look at the film and try to understand it from all these different perspectives, from a psychological perspective, from a sci-fi perspective, from a comedic standpoint, from an actor standpoint, director standpoint. Like there's this film definitely has levels to it. And I don't know if I would absolutely agree with most what people say in terms of like the lacklusterness. I just don't see that. I think that it ends out very well. And like I said earlier, like I do think that the sort of conclusion portion, like when they were all captured and they were in that room, I'm like, okay, what is this guy doing? Like this seems just sort of thrown together, like, oh, like, yeah, I'm about to hang you guys. Oh no, but now I'm gonna send you guys out. Like what? It was just, that was odd to me, and like it was running for so long that I'm like, God, can we just like move past this scene? Because I don't like how Mark Ruffalo was performing. Like I didn't dislike it heavily, but like I wasn't buying it anymore. I found the dinner scene to be phenomenal. If there's any part that I think most people will enjoy, it's definitely that dinner scene. Like it's fucking hilarious. It's all over the place. The acting is impeccable. The framing of that room and the way that it looks and how luscious it is, the acting, it's, for me, that was like how in Parasite, when all the events start to unfold and like the family fully invades the house and they ended out with doing the little peach thing, like that whole sequence for me was is perfection in film, the way that it's framed, the way that it's sort of progresses into finally them fully taking over the house. I really like that scene of this sort of total submission of Mickey, right? This total outward full expression of who this person is. A person that is so submissive that can't even in the midst of being treated like complete fucking shit. But the thing is that the film tries to convince you that it is normal because you buy into it, right? You're like, oh, he could just come back. Like it doesn't really matter. But the film does a pretty good job of convincing you, no, like this character actually matters. And I think that's a pretty good job of the film to do, because if you already know that multiple Mickeys die, like it's hard to kind of convince you that any of their lives matter. I will say that I don't know if the same thing could be said about Mickey 18 and when he dies, but I do find his sacrifice to be noble. But the one thing that I still can't figure out, and this is what I brought up really early on, was the red button. I personally just can't figure it out. I'm trying to understand its symbolism. At first, I saw it as a way of him blaming himself for his mother's death, and uh, Mickey 18, he's like, no, we didn't kill our mom. It's just a way of you blaming yourself. But throughout the film, there's this symbolic sort of gesture of always pressing the red button, and like, I mean, the red button has so many indications in modern society. Like people view it as pressing the button to send out a nuclear war machine, or pressing the red button to you know, uh, open up a latch and send somebody through it, or every car has a red button. And one of my friends, he always jokes that it's the self-destruct button in a car. So there's this idea of like how it has a sort of negative connotation to it, and in the film it brings that in, but I don't know what it's really trying to say. The dream that he had, he basically touches the red button and he tastes it. Maybe on a further rewatch, or maybe somebody further analyzing the film, I think that there's something there though, for sure. Like the film gives enough of that to be like, okay, that is something to look into, and I like that. I like that because it provides a bit of rewatchability. But yeah, across the board, even Mark Ruffalo's wife, I forget her name, but she's phenomenal. Again, the top casting is very oddly placed. Like the women, yeah, Toni Collette, they're all on the right side. I don't know, this makes no sense. But she plays Yilfa. Yilfa. She's fucking awesome. I like that there was a sort of callback to Hereditary, where there's a scene in which Toni Collette, she like, she's freaking out and she's on the table, and I swear there's an exact same shot recreated in this film when she sees Mark Ruffalo's character die. And it's sort of a recreation of that. I really dug that. I am almost going to be done, but I will say that I saw somebody talk about some comments talk about like the meanings of the film, and one of them has stuck with me in terms of like how the film gives off this idea that there's a good ending, right? Everybody gets everything that they want. You know, Mickey basically becomes partners with yeah, what's her name? Nasha, and Nasha gets this position, and like it's a very idealistic ending. Yet in his dream, there's this nightmare that like Mark Ruffalo's character is coming back, and like everything's gonna be back in the way that it was. This sort of totalitarian government regime type shit. And yeah, basically that like Bong Joon-ho is gonna give you the ending that is idealistic and sort of part of the film, like what you want to see in a film, but realistically in our society we're always just going to get tyrannical figures that consistently take over eventually. And I was thinking about it during the film, and it really made me feel sad because I was like, fuck, man. Like, no matter what, people are always going to vote for these guys. They're always going to support them. They're always going to have some platform because they're the ones that are willing to take it. The people that are probably way better suited for this, people that actually have some form of empathy, our world doesn't support that type of leadership. We live in a world where you have to be willing to do horrible fucking things. Like seriously, horrible things. You need to be willing to kill someone in that position of power because it's just the truth. Like how can you just sit there and try to save everyone? It's not possible. It's genuinely not possible. So it's very grim in that way for sure. It's a film that really highlights some of the fucking major problems that we have right now. And I really want to commend him for it because I think this is such a left field movie. It's such an odd movie. Like it's probably his weirdest film. I mean, I'll look through his filmography real quick, but I'm certain he has no weirder film than this. So I love how I did a little awkward pause because I couldn't hit the damn pause button. But like I'm looking through it, he has Mickey 17, Parasite. Okja's like a little weird, but it's a good film. I wasn't crazy about it, but it was good. Snowpiercer's awesome. Kind of this film reminded me a lot of Snowpiercer in this sort of like totalitarian like regime, futuristic, very icy type of movie. Mother's fantastic. Oh, I actually haven't seen the movie Tokyo. I haven't seen that one. I'll give that a watch. I thought I saw everything from him. The Host, as I said, really enjoyed that movie. Memories of Murder is fucking phenomenal. You know what's crazy? When I watched that movie, they had just solved the fucking case. Like, literally, when I watched that film, I don't know when it was. Whenever the fucking article came out that they finally figured out who did it, that was literally the day that I saw it. Like, it was the same exact day. It was so weird. Oh, yeah, there's some shorter films. I don't know if I really care to watch these. I haven't seen Barking Dogs Never Bite either. So there, wait, no, I thought I saw this one. I saw this one. Yeah. Yeah, this is a good movie. It's a silly movie. I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10. It's a good movie. I forgot to rate it. I've seen so many films, man. I don't. Yeah, so the only one that I haven't seen is Tokyo. And I'm going to actually watch that one, see what I feel about it. But I'd easily say that this is it's his weirdest film for sure. It's the most left field, and I have to commend him for even going for something like this. This isn't a film that would be made otherwise, and it looks beautiful. The sound design is pretty incredible. I will say that in my theater, like whenever Mickey 17 spoke, I couldn't fucking understand him, especially like when he was out in the snow, because dude, there was so much shit going on, and I think that's the point. It's kind of like, yeah, like you wouldn't be able to hear anything because there's fucking little motherfuckers stampeding everywhere, and like he's like yelling. It actually makes a lot of sense. You know, I don't know if that was everybody's experience. It might have just been my theater, but it was definitely like annoying at first. But now when I think about it, I can kind of commend it. But I don't know, I just want everybody to understand that like I can absolutely, and trust me, when I was done watching the movie, I was like, I could so see people not liking this movie. I could still see people giving it like 4 3s. Honestly, seeing that people gave it a 6, I'm like, okay, so they liked it. I just love like one thing for me, like a 6 for me is not a bad score at all. A 6 for me, oh my god, that was so bright. Okay, a 6 for me is a good movie. It has a lot of flaws, but it's still good. It's still above average. So for me, that's good. Like, that wasn't a complete waste of my time. I feel like if I watch anything below an average, it was a complete waste of my time. Most of the time. Sometimes it's kind of like, okay. Like, I watched The Fanatic with, what's his name? John Travolta. That was a waste of my fucking time. I couldn't even find the enjoyment in that like some other people did. But either way, I've been ranting so much. This is my first video in sort of the film sphere. I'll talk about any new films that really impact me. I don't know if I'm really going to talk about anything that I feel nothing towards. Like, I wouldn't make a video on Baby Girl because I didn't like that movie at all. Um, or like, just films that I don't really care about. I think I'm gonna just talk about films that I like, and maybe shit talk one that I really dislike. Maybe I'll give it that. But either way, I appreciate you guys watching. You can check out my channel if you want to see anything else that I do. I also do Pokemon stuff, Dragon Ball Super stuff. I'm gonna basically just do all the things that I like. Might even do fucking vinyl product reviews or some shit like that. I'm a vinyl collector, movie collector, manga collector, novel collector. I like reading the books too. I don't just collect them. I have my toes into like every type of hobby out there just because I like to experience the full human experience. So if you're interested in that and want to see anything else, just check out my channel, subscribe, and hit the like button. All right. Have a good night, everybody.